I really actually did try to listen through a lot of Lil Wayne albums. Is this a hot take to say, in my mind, Lil Wayne is like Jay-Z in that he does killer features sometimes, but his albums suck? What a day, guys. Did you see all the legal stuff with the court case in the Department of Justice? It's some wild stuff, isn't it? What? Why would you? What's like even the Republican incentive to be against this? I don't know too many New Yorkers, but people told me that it actually did cut down like significantly on the traffic. It's just going into Manhattan from Jersey and other places. Why would he? I don't even know why he would be against this. I don't even know what power he has to get rid of this, or maybe somebody in New York got rid of it, or. I want to fight disinformation and lies, but as a nobody, it's like shouting into the void, and 50% of all people on the internet are bots anyway. True. Don't get too caught up in it. You're drawing any info or statements today? Yeah, I will. I'm just waiting for a few more people to roll in so I don't have to repeat myself 50 billion times. Wait, hold on. Can you go all the way, or are you still limited? Well, I'm significantly less limited now, but I have to, I mean, I fired off I wrote up a huge thing over the past few days, which I wonder if that's what motivated them to file so quickly, for presenting my side of things. But now that everything's filed, now I have way more. There's one huge reason why I haven't said anything that nobody was able to put together, which is understandable, I guess, because it's a little unintuitive, but now that doesn't matter, so I guess. Finish this. Oh, the Doom game. Karen, yeah, basically. You wanted to give the other side enough rope to hang themselves to commit a narrative. No, basically, I guess it's enough. Fuck it. I'll go over a little bit, but I can't. I just want to make sure my legal dude sign off on everything. I ended up writing up a big thing. So here, this is like the big issue. Okay. There are 3 big reasons, I think, generally, why you don't talk much about a court case before it goes to, before it actually, like, it goes to trial or is filed or whatever, okay? 2 of these are very intuitive, or at least you hear them repeated so often, but there's a third one that's far less intuitive. So the first one is, obviously, you run the risk of saying something incriminating, which is, you don't want to do that, because anything you say or do can be used against you in court, blah, blah, blah. And even in a civil case, that, theoretically, anything you say can show up. So sometimes people might admit to a crime or say things that could cause for further cause of action or whatever, right? So that's like the very obvious one. The second one was... fuck, what was my second one? Wait, why do you guys think you don't take... Fuck, I had a second one in my brain. The congestion tax was built anytime you cross below 60th Street at the Battery Park. It's causing more congestion above 60th. Is that true? Fuck, I just had a Biden moment. Yeah, I'm sundowning. Fuck me. There was a second one. Well, I don't remember now. I guess it wasn't that intuitive. But the second thing that's at issue in this particular case is that Pixie made an unbelievably fucking unhinged Substack. The problem was, while we were negotiating pre them filing anything, oh fuck, it's hard to say this without doing like the whole story. Oh no, there was a second intuitive one. I'm sorry. Now that as I run through this, I remember. The second issue is that if you say a whole bunch of stuff publicly and you attack the other person, you make them less likely to want to actually settle anything, because part of the advantages of pretrial settlements are non-disclosure agreements, non-disparagement clauses, and these are things that you have as kind of like negotiating tools, basically. But if you blurb everything publicly and everything goes public, then it's like, okay, well, I mean, what's the incentive to settle anything, right? The third issue was that the Substack that Andrea wrote was so unbelievably unhinged that the only possible way I would have agreed to settle anything would have been she had to retract like 80% of that. But the issue is that I don't know if there's any world where she ever would have been willing to, because it makes her look so bad. But I think the issue is that she maneuvered herself into like a totally unfuckable position where like the situation was just so screwed up that she's looking for me to try to settle something, but she's already inflicted maximum possible damage on me. So they filed a lawsuit today, but it's like, okay, like all of these claims, actually worse than the claims in the lawsuit, have already been made publicly and alleged against me in her Substack. So I have little incentive to settle anything. She's put herself like in an impossible position where she can't like do anything because she would have to walk back from so much. And the issue is, so then getting into this, people are like, why didn't you say anything? Why haven't you said you're innocent, or why haven't you blah, blah, blah? The reason why I haven't said anything is because as soon as I start clarifying on my end, remember how we said in court, you can't introduce character evidence to attack a defendant, but you can introduce character evidence to attack somebody who's provided character evidence to defend themselves. The issue then is that for me to argue my side here would be it's going to be really, really, really rough on the other side. So if I start publicly explaining things, it destroys her ability to make any kind of salvageable public statement. And then So there's been like 3 phases of me basically not being able to chat about any of this. So the first phase was, obviously, I don't want to publicize the leaks because, and I don't give a fuck what anybody says in this, I am a victim in this, unarguably the largest victim. I was the target of this, and I've been the one the most horribly impacted. So one, I don't want to publicize my own leaks, but also out of respect for other people involved, I don't want to publicize their leaks, so I don't talk about any of it. The second part was her saying that she was literally suicidal and that if her parents ever found out, she would kill herself. So obviously, I don't want to talk about it then as well. And then the third part was for pre-trial stuff after she'd made her statement. Well, now if I start explaining my side of things, now she's in an even more like completely fucked position trying to make any sort of pre-trial joint statement with me to settle anything. So the situation in terms of my ability to say anything prior to filing an actual fucking complaint has been nada, because I'm either going to cause her to kill herself, okay, or I'm going to cause her to have to be so fucked for her litigation posture that now she'll either kill herself or whatever. I don't know. So this has been like the most irritating and annoying fucking part about all of this, I think. There's like a lot of like specifics that we can dive into, but like I said, I made I don't know if you call it a manifesto. Probably shouldn't call it manifesto, because now everything I say is going to show up in either in a court doc or in trial, I guess. But I don't understand. Shouldn't you be focusing on self-survivability over her feelings? Kind of. So I'm trying to think of how to say this so that it doesn't sound like the worst thing ever. Like, in a way, our destinies are intertwined. Because let's say that I go... The issue is that in my mind, and who knows, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe some magical stuff will happen in court or whatever, and who knows. In my mind, the worst stuff for me was always the PR stuff. So after she made her Substack, at that point, like this is the maximum amount of damage that I can suffer. Like it's been a lot of reputational damage, a lot of direct financial harm, a lot of indirect financial harm, reputational harm, relationship harm, friendships, whatever. So at that point, what is the point of me clarifying anything publicly? Like, even if I have like the perfect statement, like there's already been irreparable harm suffered. Well, okay, let's say that I make a statement. Let's say that I clarify to the best of my ability everything on my end, but as a result of those clarifications, I destroy her character. And then let's say that the tides turn, and let's say overwhelmingly, or let's say the majority of people are like, yeah, okay, I think Stephen's position was a lot more fair here than what was being represented, and then she kills herself. Well, now I'm still fucked, because now I'm like, okay, well, all right, okay, well, I'm not gonna say much about that. Now I'm completely fucked, right? So I'm like as soon as people start like threatening suicide, now I'm like I'm boxed in and fucked like in every single fucking area. I don't know how many of these are public yet. I've got screenshots of everything. Obviously, we'll see how much I can talk about, but like, Like Andrea is literally having conversations where she's literally saying, depending on Steven's response for this, I'll decide like if I have to go nuclear or not. And but don't worry, like I won't kill myself over the holidays because I don't want to make people's like holidays feel bad. And it's like, holy fucking shit, like well, what the fuck? And then when the demand is $500,000 to $1 million, it's like, wait, what the fuck? And it's getting higher like every single time she talks to somebody. I'm like, wait, excuse me? This is because yeah, I don't know. It's just like, isn't this extortion? I'm not going to say that because that would be a crime, and I'm still consulting with my lawyer on that. But it, you know, if you read the elements of it, it gets pretty close to it. And by close to it, I mean, yeah. But after she got a lawyer involved, and then we started negotiating back and forth, after we started going back and forth, her first demand letter to me was for a total apology. Hold on. Let me... Hold on. She wanted a formal written apology for me. Immediate cessation of the further disclosure and dissemination of images, which are all hosted on another website, by the way. And then reimbursement of legal fees. And then at least $15 million in compensation. Fuck that. This is a racket. This whole thing has been a racket. So now that it's filed, I guess we'll see what happens pre-trial. We'll see what happens if it goes to trial. In terms of like being allowed to share stuff or any of those claims, hopefully I can talk about that tomorrow, but those are going to get like, that's going to be ugly. but I'm waiting to see what my advice of counsel is in terms of saying anything about that. So yeah, that's all. That's where I'll be for now. And then hopefully tomorrow I can say more about it, but we'll see. But I mean, obviously, if we do go the full court route, then this is like 12 to 18 months potentially of whatever. So obviously I can't wait for, you know, a year plus to make any statements about it. So. To be fair, if something like this was leaked about me, I would be close to suicidal too. Yeah, you know, that could be a thing. One of the toughest parts about this for me is I've had to piece together like so much from stuff that's like leaked from other people. Ordinarily, when I'm going to do like manifesto stuff, I guess, or when I'm writing up big stuff, usually I have access to a whole bunch of different people, a whole bunch of different logs, a whole bunch of different stuff, so I can like sort through and figure out, okay, well, what the fuck happened? What's the story? But for this, obviously, ever since Andrea made her first like Substack, well, now I'm like public enemy number one. Nobody talks to me. Everybody's in like Gisticles, like rehab server or Kiwi Farms, and they're all spreading around like the most insane stories. So I have like literally 2 people I can talk to. So I can only go by other stuff that I see leaked. And I have an idea in my mind in terms of like, okay, well, what do I think is happening here? And I have like decently strong intuitions about what's happening. But then a few days ago, for the first time, I actually watched, because everything was so cringe, but I actually watched some of the videos that were posted about this. And I will say I don't want to say it feels good. That sounds weird. But a lot of the intuitions that I had were way, 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 way more on the ball than I thought. And there are so many other logs that I wish I had access to. So like, for instance, because this is just insane. I don't know what these full conversations are, but I saw like in one of these videos, for instance, that like Erin is saying, she was threatening to kill herself to him, that's me, Steven, but she told me this wasn't serious. It was just to get his attention. Like when I see stuff like this, I'm like, okay. I understand what's going on here. There's a racket. I understand it. And I do feel very strongly about that. But who knows? We'll see, I guess, we'll see when we get further into this. This whole scenario has just been such an unbelievable mindfuck. Holy shit. Yeah, Jesus. But what was the unintuitive reason not to speak publicly? I already went over it. It's to give her flexibility to make a public statement. Retracting what she said and then making some kind of statement with me that kind of like maintains her reputation, because she has like perfect victim status. She's like, the way she's written her Substack is just, it's so much of it is untrue and so much of it is insane. But for me to give a counter to that Substack destroys her ability to make any like reasonable comments on it. So the goal is like, okay, well, I'm not going to say shit, so we can sit here and try to renegotiate some type of like pretrial settlement, which is what we were kind of working on. But then once she dropped that $15 million demand, and I'm like, excuse me? So as soon as she said that, I hired a second, more aggressive law firm. We had another call, and then her lawyer was like, something along the lines of like, okay, wait. What about like, just make me an offer over 150K. I'm like, this is fucking retarded. What the fuck what is this right now? This is so stupid. And so, yeah, I don't know. And then I made my demand, and then after that, they stopped responding, it seems like. And so now I guess they're like, oh, fuck it, let's just file a lawsuit. It's like, okay, well, fuck it. We'll see what happens. Good times. Did you call Harvey Specter? No, I called Mike. What was your demand? I should wait for I want to get that whole statement approved. My demand was basically, I said, you can keep the bullshit you raised on the GoFundMe. I'll cover your legal fees, and then we have to make a statement where you walk back basically everything in that Substack, because that Substack was unhinged. But I told my law firm, I was like, I don't think there's any chance that, I think she's maneuvered into a position where she can't undo any of this. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Probably a stupid question, but are you okay through all of this? No, I'm not okay. Okay? I don't feel okay. The amount of insane people who have contacted me, other people who've tried to extort me on things. I had some woman DM me and she's like, we sexted a long time ago. Like, if you don't give me $5,000, I'm gonna contact the Daily Wire and tell them this story. I'm like, what the fuck? I've had so many random fucking crazy people. Yeah. Did you watch Willie's vid? No. Do you have a mini fest you're going to do if your legal team says yes? Yeah, basically. But I got to wait for their response, so. Can you leak your current lawyer costs? Yeah, it's just me pissing my money away, but I guess I can spend it on something. I've probably paid about $40,000 so far. Good times. Feels good. Is it for sure going to trial now? Who knows? Initially, I didn't think they would actually file an actual suit because for various reasons, the claims are all so stupid. But now, who knows? I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. I don't think I want to talk like specifically around like litigation strategy, just because I need to. Because we're probably still planning, right? I literally woke up and saw this on Twitter, so. Remember a while ago, you mentioned that going on social media to talk about what happened in cases like this should be the last line of defense if the authorities do nothing about it. Well, I guess that depends on what your goal is, huh? Is there a legal term for bringing something to court and throwing your case because you're trying to get them for a harsher crime than what they're actually guilty for? I think there's a term called, I think it's called vexatious litigation, but I don't know if that would apply here at all. Is this related to why Lycan is not cooking for you anymore? You know what? I didn't want to go over this on stream, but I will go over this now because fuck everybody. The reason why Lycan isn't cooking for me on stream anymore is because when I wasn't streaming and Lycan was cooking here, every single time Lycan would come over to cook, he would insist that he had to do it naked in a Kiss the Chef apron. And I was like, Lycan, this is too much. And he's like, you're not even live. No, I'm just kidding. Can you reveal how much Daily Gunnet and Strader were involved behind the scenes? I can't reveal because I don't know. I have to make guesses and intuit everything, basically. Because I have no access to any of these people. Through everything, I will say there's like 40-60, 40% call me naive, 60% agree. I think Erin was just trying to do the best by Pixie. For some reason, she's just like hopelessly friends with President Sunday and trust him. I don't know why. I feel like it's more stupidity than, but I still haven't seen anything to the contrary of that, but yeah, I don't know. President Sunday kind of right about the extortion angle. I'll talk more about this tomorrow, and then more in regards to like sending videos around and anything like that. But I'll wait till tomorrow to talk about this stuff. Okay. Do you think the opening up of your side will bring back some of the orbiters who jumped ship, or are bridges burned for good? Assuming my career survives and I just retire to become a video game player. One thing that I learned through all of this that is, well, hold on. This is good advice for anybody. The problem is I changed my lifestyle so much over the last, or like about a year and a half ago, so I don't, my goals shifted as well, is, you've heard the saying, like you are who you hang around or whatever, or I guess the modern day, the Zoomer version of that, the red pill version is your net worth is your network or whatever. I guess this is kind of happening organically, but I don't think it's enough to cut out people's I don't think it's enough to cut out negative people from your life. I think you have to cut out everybody that's peripheral to those people as well. I could have done that more aggressively. I'll definitely be doing it going forward, but I've also done it it was kind of already happening organically anyway because I wasn't hanging out with a lot of people, so. But I think it's really important to not keep around, yeah, because stuff started to connect in the background of this in terms of different types of people where I'm like, how the fuck, I don't even know you guys are like, and I don't see they're like scheming with each other. I'm like, the fuck? But it is what it is. To be fair, you haven't put on a sorry tone to be throughout any of this. Like, do you genuinely feel bad for what you did, right? I'll talk more about this tomorrow. The biggest issue with people who are saying, like, you have to have an apologetic tone or whatever, is people want me to be apologetic for being, like, a sex cult rapist groomer person. Like, no, I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. But I'll talk. I think I can talk more specifically about it tomorrow, hopefully, yeah. Do you know the motivations of the leaker? Are they happy with how this turned out? Yeah, of course they're happy. They just wanted to cause maximum fucking drama, I think. Does this include talking about the cherry stuff? I think I will. I want, like, everything is built off of this, the Pixie stuff. So I want to, like, have this done before I move to another, because as soon as I move to the next thing, there's just going to be a whole bunch of autistic shit that spawns from that as well. So it's just, I'm trying to do this, like, compartmentalized. Any shit you want to talk on Justical and the people on that server? I don't watch any of it. I don't know any of it. I get DMs from people there. There are so many people there that, like I've said this a million times, but again, the insane amount of, like, psychoanalysis is insanely fucking cringe, especially when so much of it is like conjecture. Like, but do you feel betrayed by Lonerbox? No, I think Lonerbox was in, like, an impossibly fucked position. I felt, like I said, I reached out to Verse and I was like, hey, shit is fucked. Like, we don't have to do content. It's cool. I understand. Especially because I think Pixie, lied to him about us ever having hooked up. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much that impacted them or not, though. Or not that it matters, I guess, because apparently they're not dating, is what we say publicly. So maybe that doesn't matter at all. I'm not sure. Will you address the Will Smith and XQC situation? What is the Will Smith and XQC situation?
I had the experience of, the blessing of achieving everything I ever dreamed.
And then now you unpack it in the music.
Yeah, and it's like, I guess when you, like, you get.
Why does he? I guess XQC is really tall. Will Smith's not that short, though, right?
Because when you realize that, like, no woman's gonna make you happy, no amount of money is gonna make you happy, no success, that you really have to find that place where you love you.
Yeah,
and it's
self-actualization,
Yeah, you just, like, that place where you look in the mirror and you just don't love nobody as much as you love you.
It's hard to love people if you don't at least love yourself.
At least love
right?
yourself,
It's very difficult for sure. That's cool though. So, just have you been releasing music or just writing it? Just
I've been writing a lot. I've been listening to a lot of world music. I love what's happening in Africa now, how Afro beats is starting to wake up, and
for sure.
That I love what Tyler's doing, and
Tyler,
yeah.
Yeah, so I saw her on my feed a couple minutes ago before I started this.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, she was on a talk show, whatever. She was kind of doing a dance, like walking in.
Yeah, that's like that, and it's hard. We don't even think about it in that way, but she's like the first real.
There's, like, an uncanny valley where I just assume Will is AI now because of those spaghetti vids. Somebody posted something of Kamala Harris before that I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be AI or not. Okay. We're doing politics now, okay? If you want drama, come back tomorrow. Hopefully. Fuck, what was this? This was an insane tweet. Is there more context to this video?
We have another lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
That is a very, very, very funny statement to make. I don't know. I doubt it's intentional. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But I'm so curious. I want to read these Supreme Court decisions so much because that statement absolutely flies in the face of the it would have been wait, did we not take notes on this one? Fuck. What was the name of the Supreme Court case that overturned Chevron? Chevron overturned Supreme Court. Was it Loper? Oh, maybe I wasn't taking notes yet when we read that one. Oh, search. Oh, I guess not. Fuck, what was the language used? This gets into weird constitutional law. This is going to be very boring, I guess. But basically, okay, to give a quick refresher for anybody that gives a fuck, what the Chevron doctrine said essentially was, let's say Congress passes a law, and Congress passes a law saying we're going to pass a law giving the federal government, the executive branch, the right to regulate the EPA to regulate carbon dioxide out of the air, okay? When the federal government gets that, maybe it can be read in such a way that's like, okay, well, the air, well, does the air count as the air inside the buildings as well? Or does air just mean like outside when it said in the air? Like, does the EPA have the right to regulate levels in your house? Well, there was this doctrine called the Chevron doctrine. Actually, I think it should be listed in here. And it was called the two-step approach. Basically, what it said was, the first question is, did Congress tell you exactly what to do? And so, did Congress specify? Did they mean air inside the house and outside the house or not? Well, Congress didn't specify. So that was the first step, okay? And then, now if Congress did say, then you have to do what Congress says, okay? But then, in the case which the statute was silent or ambiguous with respect to the specific issue, then there was a second step, and the second step was, as long as the government offered a permissible construction of the statute. So let's say the government looks at it and they're like, okay, well, when the EPA gives us the ability to regulate the air, they obviously didn't mean inside people's homes. That'd be like kind of goofy. So we're going to say that for the purposes of how we're going to interpret this statute, we're going to say that the air is just the stuff outside the homes, okay? And that was the reading of the law, okay? So this was the Chevron two-step doctrine, all right? Now, the issue that the Supreme Court had with this is, generally, when you're trying to interpret what a law means, or when you're trying to interpret what is the law? What is the law? That is the exclusive providence of the courts. And so the Supreme Court is looking at this and like, excuse me, if you read Gorsuch's concurrence in this especially, the Supreme Court's look at this and go, excuse me, statutory interpretation, meaning how do we divine, like, what is the law that's being said here, right? Or constructing federal rules from Congress. That's not a thing that you guys are just allowed to do and have the final say on. This is ultimately in the purview of the courts. It's not enough to say that there are permissible constructions of rules from statutes. In fact, it is the case that there is only one permissible construction, and it's what the court says that permissible construction is. So the Chevron, this Loper case and getting rid of Chevron, even though people get mad because they like Chevron for whatever reasons, this was actually taking power, maybe a little bit of power away from Congress, quite a bit of power away from the executive, and giving more power to the judiciary. It was the Supreme Court reasserting and saying, we are the last say on what the law is. That was the big deal with this Loper case. Or I say big deal, but this is what overturned Chevron. So it's interesting, the language used here. Now, maybe it's just, they just use whatever words because whatever the fuck, and it's not like, and I'm thinking too like legalese or whatever, but
can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to that only the president or the attorney general can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much.
So that flies in the face of Loper. It's Loper, right? That's how you pronounce it. I feel like Democrats weren't very happy about them overturning Chevron, but this feels like a good thing given Trump's executive. Honest to God, I see Chevron going both ways. I don't really think it's as big of a deal as people said it was. I wonder if I said it was a huge deal. I feel like it just wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I think that there's a strong argument that if Congress wants something regulated better, then Congress can write a more specific law, which they've done. We saw that happen. Remember when I debated, I'm gonna call him PF Chang, but that's the fucking Asian restaurant. Oh, PF Young.
Like I said, this is
when I debated PF Young over there was a video that we watched with Vivek and Lex. And, oh no, was it Vivek? I think it was Vivek. And Vivek was talking about how the federal government banned cooking classes because they wanted to get rid of weapons in school or whatever, right? Well, when we actually saw why the federal government was pulling funding from schools that were offering cooking classes, it's because Congress passed a law that said any class at all that has you teaching how to use anything that is a weapon, and then that was defined statutorily somewhere else, you're not allowed to fund that. And Congress read it, and the statute included like all sharp objects. It's like, okay, well, fuck, that's what we got to ban. Sorry, that's what Congress said. But once Congress saw that, now a bunch of them virtue signaled, and they were like, oh, we can't believe that the government's doing this. It's horrible. What they did was Congress passed an amendment to that law, and they said, we are going to make an exception in the cases of like cooking classes and archery or whatever else, right? Oh, okay. So in an ideal world, like that's probably okay, right? Congress passed a law. It was a little bit vague. The executive branch interpreted it one way, and then Congress didn't like that. So then Congress passed like an updated amendment to change the way that the federal government was going to enforce it. So like that was fine. It might have been archery classes, but it included like cooking classes and shit as well. So. Couldn't the agency just dispute to SCOTUS when they disagree with the DOJ? So this EO has no effect. I don't know what you mean, agency. I don't know how an agency can disagree with the DOJ. I don't know. This would be a good Peace Code question. I don't know where we're at. I need other lawyers too. We need more than just Peace Code as a lawyer. I don't know how the executive branch is supposed to resolve disagreements inside of itself. I don't know if this is a question historically that's asked very much. Yeah, I don't know, because the issue is that like when it comes to legal enforcement, right? Like if you're disputing like an employment thing, there's processes for that. That's an easy thing. But if you want to like take legal action against somebody in the executive branch, it's hard because the executive branch is the branch that takes legal action, right? Remember, theoretically, there's a world where the executive branch is really all just, helping the president do his job. Well, how would you sue yourself is kind of what you're asking a little bit. Now, I mean, I guess it's already kind of happening, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. Like the head of the agency would have to get external representation and sue the federal government. Yeah, but it's a very weird. I mean, no, I guess because these are all civil cases, so maybe it's not that weird, but it's kind of weird. It's just very strange. Yeah. One thing that I keep showing up, or that I keep seeing that shows up over and over again, that you guys shouldn't get scared about, and everybody's getting scared about this. I keep seeing this. Fuck, I should save Reddit threads that I see on my phone. A court refused a TRO that would have, I think, limited Doge's ability to cut jobs or something. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Hold on. Let me see if did I save this on my account? You should read Chevron. I think we did back when we covered Loper, I think. Oh yeah, it was this. Judge denies Democrat-led effort to block Doge access.
Hourly Amazon
Jesus. Citing lack of proven harm. Okay. So we've done enough legalese on this stream now. We can kind of understand it, okay? This headline is pretty doomer, okay? So the Democrats were trying to block Doge we're trying to block Doge access to systems, and they couldn't even prove, according to the judge list, they couldn't even prove that there was harm there. And it sounds like the judge denied the Democrats the ability to do this, right? However, what the judge denied here was a temporary restraining order. You have to understand, TROs are they're very, 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 very difficult to get, because a TRO is basically asking, remember, judges are not supposed to rule on fact. All judges do is facilitate the procedural order of things and then make rules-based decisions. They're not there to determine whether or not one side is innocent or guilty, or who's lying, who's not. That's not in the purview of a judge's job. That's what a jury is supposed to do, or a judge in a bench trial. Somebody brings that up on IP banning you. Or not a bench trial. Is it a bench trial when the judge sits instead of a jury? When you're getting a temporary restraining order, you're asking the judge to already take preemptive measures on the merit of what you're filing. You're asking the judge to say, listen, I know that you ordinarily don't decide who wins or loses, but I want you to look at this for real. Do you think I have a good chance of winning? And if the judge looks at it and the judge is like, ooh, there's a pretty good chance of you succeeding on the merits. And there's two parts to this. It's not just one. It's not just that you'll win. And if the court doesn't take preemptive action to block, to enjoin the actions of the defendants in the case, then the plaintiffs will suffer irreparable harm that cannot be remedied in any other course after a trial. So for a TRO to be granted, that's two different things that have to be met. There's a very, very, very high threshold. It's very rare to meet these. That's why it was so exceptional when it was met in some of the other cases. So the fact that it got turned down here doesn't speak at all to well, does that mean that this whole case is bullshit, or that they're never going to succeed, or that they can't even prove any harm? No. It's that they couldn't prove irreparable harm would occur if the judge didn't, in a preliminary fashion, block or enjoin, meaning to stop the defendants from doing some action. That's what this means. So when you say headlines like this, this is written in a antagonizing manner. It's not technically true, right? I think she had issue with how broad of restrictions they wanted, and they weren't specific about what harms or something. Sure, and that could be an issue. You're, what am I thinking? I'm thinking the term narrowly tailored, but that has to do with standard of review cases. It wouldn't be, but I don't know if I don't want to use the phrase narrowly tailored because that implies something else, I think. But what you're asking for has to be very limited in terms of like, these are the exact things that, like, you couldn't enjoin them from doing everything, right? Like I want a TRO against this guy for breathing because I think that he might like be mean to me or whatever. Like you have to be quite specific, I think. Destiny, I don't know. I feel like the threshold for this should be met when some random guy who's not in any official position is firing employees of the government. No. Are you going to rehire every single one of them after? Well, it depends on what they were asking for here. Keep in mind that you're in like a weird world too legally where, because Trump has actually been a little bit more careful in talking about this, Doge isn't actually firing anybody. It's Trump that's firing them with Doge's recommendation. Now, even that's not technically legal, but what could happen is Doge, like this would be legal. Doge makes a recommendation to the president. The president makes that recommendation to his executive head or his department head, and then the head carries out those firings. That would technically be a legal process. Now, is that actually happening? In some cases, it doesn't seem to be the case. That's why you've got people who are resigning and stuff. But in other cases, it could be the case. Yeah, if that makes sense. Does lack of proven harm potentially mean that there hasn't been tangible harm yet to be seen? No. For a TRO, it's not just harm, it's irreparable harm. Meaning, I can't even think of an example. Let's say somebody is suing somebody and a person is like mining stone out of a quarry and they're taking like 100 blocks of stone a day and the quarry is like 1 billion blocks. Like maybe a judge doesn't do a TRO here because the judge is like, listen, you're probably going to win this case and we do even agree that they're harming you, but like if you win, you can just ask for it all back. It's not a big deal, right? It's not like we have to come in and block them beforehand, you know? It has to be irreparable harm for a TRO, I believe. Do you think there's a world where the courts are just too slow to deal with this full muzzle velocity attempt to break and take over our government? So, oh man, these are two things. I don't know what has to happen or who you guys have to email, but I need people to talk about these two things. I need these to be more proliferated in the media. The first is my checks and balances take, that the checks and balances don't work when the executive doesn't want to play ball. There are no checks and balances at that point. Just to be clear, checks and balances are still assuming everybody's playing by the rules, number one. The second take is, fuck, does anybody have a link to the interview on, was it the BBC with the ICJ ex-president head? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? It was this. Oh my God, is this not going to be available in my... Okay, give me a minute, because now I'm going to listen for a sec.
On that basis, it's
of every order, every judgment, jointly, several times.
Right, but you have said
to access or
elements of humanity coming to the fore, that the resources available.
Writing in separate opinions, and that's representative of the world.
And you've acknowledged that far too many of the judges come from maybe now is time to consider whether you think the court is actually fit for purpose. We've already referred to the slowness of the way in which important cases processed through the court can take many, many years to get a decision. I believe right now there are at least...
Okay. I want you to listen to what she says here. When she's talking about the internet, so this is the ex-president, Joan Donoghue of the Court of Justice, the International Court of Justice, when they were reviewing the initial case that was filed by South Africa against the state of Israel, having to do with the violation of their treaty to... I should have the exact name of this. It's the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Okay, she was the president. It's very, very, very important to understand what the job of a court is. Okay, and people again aren't understanding this, and they're using this right now to hope that the courts will save us. But I think this is something people need to keep in mind. Okay, just listen to how she explains the function of the court. So coming into this, people are thinking like, oh my God, if South Africa files a suit against Israel, we can save the Palestinians. That's like the worldwide thought, okay?
Place in Srebrenica is hugely significant internationally. I don't have any doubt about that.
You've just retired from the court. Maybe it's time to consider whether you think the court is actually fit for purpose. We've already referred to the slowness of the way in which important cases processed through the court can take many, many years to get a decision. I believe right now there are at least 20 cases grinding through the court. One of them dates back to the 1990s. But there are other questions too about the diversity of the judges on the court. There are 12 men and 3 women at the moment. You've acknowledged that far too many of the judges come from the white developed world, not from the global south. Is it fit for purpose?
I think it is. The members of the court are selected in a manner that is representative of the world. There are only 15 of us, so it won't be fully representative ever, but they're elected to have diverse views.
Too about the diversity of
hugely significant. It's important to remember that the Genocide Convention does not just impose on a state an obligation. Well, you just bear in mind that, first of all,
terms of genocide, but as
in 3 prior cases,
okay, hold on.
2 cases brought to the court.
Let her explain. Okay.
To the court in the context of the former Yugoslavia.
I'm aware of Serbia and Croatia being examined before the court in terms of genocide, but as I understand it, the court did not rule that they were guilty as states of genocide. It certainly said that they took actions which allowed genocide to happen, which is obviously a very different thing. But I come back to my point that as states, no state, as far as I'm aware, has actually been, if one can use the term, found guilty by the ICJ of genocide.
Well, you just bear in mind that, first of all, the court did decide that Serbia had breached obligations under the Genocide Convention, its obligation to prevent the genocide in Srebrenica. And that goes to a point...
wasn't found responsible of it.
Right, but it's important to remember that the Genocide Convention does not just impose on a state an obligation, don't commit genocide. In fact, you don't even see that in the text of the convention. The obligations of a state go fundamentally to preventing and punishing genocide, and also there are obligations in respect of the incitement of genocide. So all of those kinds of claims on the merits can be looked at in a case. And a finding that that a state failed to prevent acts of genocide that took place, as those that took place in Srebrenica, is hugely significant internationally. I don't have any doubt.
Why is that? I mean, now you're considering Israel, but
in 3 prior cases, inbox, the case of Yugoslavia.
I'm aware. The
Hamas is not a state. Do.
Okay, fuck me, never mind. So I need to go listen to this and find it if they want later. I don't know about this. Okay. She has a really good explanation here that more people needed to understand internationally when it came to the ICJ in Israel, and when people are talking about domestic cases right now in the United States of America, okay? Courts are not meant to save you. Courts are not meant to save you. That's what the executive is for, okay? If somebody's trying to break in your house, you do not call the court to help you, all right? If somebody is stealing from you, you don't call the court to keep them from stealing from you. If somebody's going to come and kill you, you don't call the court. You might call the court to try to get like a temporary restraining order, which is an exceptional thing, but it's ultimately the executive that comes to save you. Right now, people in the United States of America, they're looking for the courts to save us from the overreach of the executive. But the issue is that a court is just there to make you whole, generally, after somebody's already done a bad thing. That's why a temporary restraining order, which you get into, you can file for and hopefully get a preliminary injunction. These are exceptional things. These aren't the norm. These are exceptional. Preliminary injunctions, temporary restraining orders, and even stays are, maybe not as much to say, but the TROs and the preliminary injunctions, these are exceptional measures that a court is taking against an alleged offender, against an alleged, not alleged, a defendant. So people that are looking for the courts to stop the executive from doing all their bad things, that's scary because it's an improper, in my opinion, it's an improper desire or hope to utilize the court in an active, preventative manner when that's not really what courts are designed to do. So people are going to get mad that maybe the courts aren't moving fast enough. Like they're trying to get expedited on a preliminary injunction. It'll always be like an expedited hearing record, I think, because they want to get those done real quick. But like people might be mad that the courts aren't fast enough. The courts aren't saying the courts can't really save you. That's not even really their job. That's just a thing to keep in mind. And I wish more people would remember this. The court can't save you, and checks and balances only exist insofar as everybody's willing to play by the rules. Can U.S. politics rebound without an unhinged arc from the left, or restore order, or is civility politics dead? I've seen more left-centric conspiracies, but I can't tell if it's just Russia astroturfing. It's probably both, but there is a serious problem right now in the United States in how many people are supporting the actions right now of the Conservative Party. So who is the one that should be doing the saving then? I mean, what should be happening is the executive should never act in a manner where they think they're the sole determiners of law. That's what should be happening. But if the executive decides that they can't do that, or they don't want to do that, then ideally, at the very least, you force them to be more open about it, meaning they lose all support from Congress. But the problem right now is that we don't just have this is the problem too. We don't just have an unhinged executive, and we don't just have an unhinged Congress, and by Congress I mean Republicans. We have an unhinged Republican voter base, because if Congress wanted, like, this would be a really easy thing. Let's assume that Trump and his admin, let's say that Trump and the Trump administration, those are the only crazy people. If that was the case, oh, that's easy. Then we impeach him in Congress. Boom. Let's say that we impeach him. Oh, but he doesn't leave. Okay, fuck. Then the military goes and removes him. Whatever. That's easy at that point. If all of Congress and the American people are supporting Congress and they impeach Trump and Trump doesn't leave office, then fuck it. Then the military goes in or whatever. But the issue is that the Republicans in Congress aren't moving to do that because the American people seem to be supporting Trump still. So the people keep asking sometimes, this is actually a criticism I gave, I think multiple years ago. People keep saying, how do we change the system right now? Because the system seems to be broken. And I've said this over and over again. The system's not broken. It's just accurately representing the will of the American people. And the will of the American people right now, prior to this, was very divided. And now it's like authoritarian, right? People always assume, and I guess we're seeing it more and more in the book that we're reading for the rise and the coming of the Third Reich, the first part of the trilogy. The issue is that if half your country wants an authoritarian leader, there's no system that you can install. There's no system that you can design to prevent that from happening, you know? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the founders intended for Congress to go against the will of the people in times like this. I think that was the original intention of the Electoral College, to provide a safeguard against an incompetent leader being voted in. Nah, the Electoral College has nothing to do with Congress. I only read like 26 of the Federalist Papers. Maybe we'll go back to reading more of them. But I don't know if Congress ever is supposed to go against the will of the people. You could argue that electors, when they vote for president, were supposed to be doing it in a different manner, but we're past that. That's not our issue right now. Why does the executive get the power of the veto? Does it not imply the ultimate legislative role? It's just to create a lot of gridlock. It's just to ensure that if legislation passed in our system, that there is a huge consent of the people in all ways for it to pass, basically. Wait. Check out Damac Properties and Holdings and their relationship with Trump. Oh, I saw that. I don't know if I care. I feel like that's like, of all the things that are happening, it's not even like... It's not even the top 20 right now. It's insane. Is it not illegal for Elon Musk to threaten dissenting Republicans be primaried? Why would that be illegal? That sounds like pretty political talk, no? I'm not being ironic or sarcastic there, like. Apparently Doji is manipulating data after the fact. I wish I could. I need just like an army of people. I want to buy Vans, or who actually read stuff. I get so scared trusting anything that I see like this, because I don't know how many of these people actually go in and read the original stuff. So unless I'm willing to go through and dig through this myself, because for instance, remember that Social Security thing? There were a whole bunch of people saying the reason why there were a bunch of old Social Security names in that database, or not dead people, they were still alive. The reason why was because they used COBOL, and that was like the default starting date was 1870 or some bullshit. And I was like, that was total bullshit. I don't even know where that came from, but I saw that theory like blasted to the ends of the earth, and it was all over the internet. But the reality is the DMF, the Death Master file, just isn't always updated because it's not used by the SSA for their own payment system. That was the explanation was totally different. So if it's not reported somewhere and even if it's reported at this point, I feel like I have to see the underlying data. Is this actually true though? Instead of admitting they were wrong, Doge literally changed FPDS data to try to cover their asses. The website now says 8 billion, but you can easily verify that the real number is 8 million by cross-referencing with any other sources as noted below. So apparently they put that this saved them $8 billion or something, but if you look on another website, this is 49.2 million. But like, I don't know if maybe this 8 billion, maybe that would have been the full contract if it would have carried on for all 5 years or 20 years, and maybe this is only what's been paid out. I'm just not sure. I don't know. We've reached out to the company who was awarded this contract, and they've confirmed the ceiling was 8 million, not billion. Here's their statement. Well, okay, well, you have a statement of the company involved. D&G Sports Services, DBA, D&G Solutions, acknowledges that the previous reported contract value of 8 billion was incorrect. The discrepancy appears to have resulted from a clerical error in the original government filing upon contract award. The contract value had a ceiling of $8 million. Oh, so like if this is true, then that would mean that Doge wasn't committing fraud or error, that there was just a clerical discrepancy when it was originally filed, assuming that their statement here is correct. Unless they're changing it after the fact or something. But also, by the way, this feels like a waste of time. I'm saying this again, but it feels like I'm screaming to the abyss. This is why the people who are auditing these systems should be people that are familiar with them and know how to do audits. I don't know if people know what an audit is, but an audit isn't just like you list all the data and then you add up the fucking numbers, right? Like people that do auditing probably have specialized training in the particular thing that they're auditing such that they know common patterns to look for when it comes to fraud or abuse. They might know common errors that people commit. They might know common crimes or schemes that people commit. They probably have some form of like documentation for how things are supposed to look like from the original. Like there's a whole list of things that goes into like auditing. Auditing is not just exporting everything to an Excel database and then adding all the columns and rows and seeing that everything, like that's not an audit, right? So Doge has no business auditing any of these things, ignoring the legal argument, but just because they're probably ill-equipped to do so. I mean, if anything, I think they've demonstrated that so far. Like, so far, what have we needed Doge for? Like, it seems like what Doge did was they dumped all the government contracts into a giant spreadsheet, Control F DEI, and then they just terminated every contract that had DEI listed in it. And it's like, okay. Auditing is accounting, and accounting is not something that a programmer understands. As an accountant, I can confidently say that. Sure, unless they have like specialized, like unless they're an accounting programmer. Maybe. Actually, well, I guess it depends, but yeah. You can also check the Doge site to see who they are hiring. Zero mention of accounting experience. I feel like somehow we got hyper ejected back into that world of this happened with Steve Jobs, I think. Was Steve Jobs about jerking off artists, or was it about engineers? Jobs might have been about artists. Wait, fuck, it's been so long now. Oh, God. It's too far into my past to remember. Why not jerk both? No, there was like, it might have been back in, it might have been engineers. I think when Jobs, or developers or something, I think when Steve Jobs took over Apple, And then when the iPhone came out, I think there was this huge move in like the software world where it was like, oh no, we need more guys that can do something instead of like we needed more engineers instead of middle management or something. Was it that? Why do I feel like it was artists? I don't remember now. Now it's been too long. But there was a huge shift in the world towards like hiring people with those types of skills for whatever thing I'm talking about. But now, well, now I can't relate it because I don't remember exactly. I guess was it designers? I feel like that's not right. I don't remember. Don't care. Eject it. But now you're having like Elon Musk is doing a similar thing here with engineers and engineering. Kanye got swept up into this as well. I don't know if you remember. Kanye West started doing the sort of jerking off like engineers too, where everybody needed to be an engineer and everybody's in engineering is the only thing that matters. An engineer. And it's like, okay, like slow down there, buddy. Where it's like, oh, well, we have an accounting problem. Well, let's just throw some engineers at it because engineers do engineering and engineering is the solution for literally everything. Everything can be fixed with engineering. And it's just like, okay, let's calm down. But that's what this seems to be. Yeah, that's what it feels like at least.
Well, what happens is, like with John Scully, John came from PepsiCo, and they at most would change their product, once every 10 years. I mean, to them, a new product was like a new size bottle, right? So if you were a product person, you couldn't change the course of that company very much. So who influenced the success of PepsiCo? The sales and marketing people. Therefore, they were the ones that got promoted, and therefore they were the ones that ran the company. Well, for PepsiCo, that might have been okay, but it turns out the same thing can happen in technology companies that get
These programmers are likely trained in accounting. I seriously doubt that. The 21-year-old Doge programmers that are programmers are also trained in accounting. Press X to doubt massively.
Monopolies. It turns out the same thing can happen in technology companies that get monopolies, like, IBM and Xerox. If you were a product person at IBM or Xerox, so you make a better copy or a better computer. So what? When you have a monopoly market share, the company's not any more successful. So the people that can make the company more successful are sales and marketing people. And they end up running the companies. And the product people get driven out of the decision-making forums. And the companies forget what it means to make great products. Sort of the product sensibility and the product genius that brought them to that monopolistic position gets rotted out by people.
Is he wrong? It always feels like the issue. This is like a human issue. Whenever something isn't working perfectly, instead of taking the lessons you've learned from the thing that wasn't working perfectly and then carrying them forward into a new paradigm, people want to eject everything from the last paradigm and change completely. I don't know why. I don't know why people just tend to think this way. I think it's ridiculous, but whatever.
Product genius that brought them to that monopolistic position gets rotted out by people running these companies who have no conception of a good product versus a bad product. They have no conception of the craftsmanship that's required to take a good idea and turn it into a good product. And they really have no feeling in their hearts, usually, about wanting to really help the customers. So that's what happened at Xerox. The people at Xerox PARC used to call the people who ran Xerox toner heads. And they just had, these toner heads would come out to Xerox PARC and they just had no clue about what they were seeing. And for our audience, toner is what?
Steve was an actual visionary, but bro died like a retard. What, eating asparagus for his cancer or whatever? I mean, like, one of the things that's really hard is I hear this happens in the research world, but I don't actually know. I don't actually know if this is true. So I'm repeating this, okay? Take this with a grain of salt. I've read this in quite a few articles, though, that somebody can have a really good paper that they've published, and then they're seen as kind of like almost this quasi-authority figure in their particular discipline, but all the rest of their work is like kind of shit, but they can ride off of the success of that one paper such that they're still taken seriously, even if their ideas past that paper were never really that great. People say that like Steve Jobs was a huge visionary. Was he? I feel like they had basically the iPhone and like the iPod, which I think technologically had a lot of overlap, even if it didn't seem like it initially. But like that was it, right? Like prior to the iPhone, Apple was like a 2% market share company, no? Destiny, the iMac was huge. How huge are we talking? iMac, can I even look at this? Market share? In what year? Fuck. Are you implying that we would have had the iPhone or iPod regardless of Steve Jobs? I'm not sure, actually. I don't know. I think that Steve Jobs is... I think the iPhone and the iPad was... Or the iPhone and the iPod were cool, were good. But it's not like he was designing product after product after product after product after product. It was that... I think he had a really good idea with that. And he made it possible, so yeah. But... I don't know. People give him a lot of credit. And there was one huge banger, I think. There's also, I think, this is like fantasy and conjecture that is like exists in my head with no background. I don't know, I could be totally wrong. But sometimes I wonder if you get these people who seem like they're visionaries, but they're not really, but they are really good at like riding people's asses, and they can make things happen that people didn't know just because of how much of a hard ass they are. Sometimes I wonder if for SpaceX and for Tesla, if Elon was able to do that, not because he was like a super genius, but because there were a lot of legitimately talented people working there, and he was the only person unreasonable enough to be like, hey, we need to cut this by 10%. Hey, this needs to be half the size. And on paper, these were like retarded demands. And maybe Elon was too stupid to even realize how crazy the demands were. But because he happened to place them on a group of really talented people, they happened to come up with things that did actually fit the criteria or meet the mold of what he wanted. And that's where these huge pushes come from. But maybe just take somebody like kind of stupid to make that push. But I don't know. I'm like, that's a super conjectured. Bill Burr literally says that. We've probably watched this before. Or Bill Burr stole it from me.
Actually, Nerd Jesus died in the last year, right?
Oh,
Steve
we have
Jobs.
watched this before.
Yeah, he died, right? I know, a lot of nerds here tonight. I know, you're sad. I didn't get it. I didn't get the big deal they made about that guy. When he died, they were like, he changed the world. Doesn't say. He changed the world. The world was one way, and then Steve Jobs came, and it was another. What did he do? Somebody, for the love of God, what the fuck did that guy do? What did he do? He told other people what to invent? I want my entire music collection in that phone. Get on it! Right? And then these poor, nameless, faceless scientists got to go in a back room and figure it out. How the fuck are we going to get all of this into this? I mean, what year does this guy think this is? This is crazy. This is like Buck Rogers. Dude, my kid has a birthday in like 11 months. Steve Jobs just walking by. I don't hear any thinking going on in there. Just strutting around the office, eating some pretentious fruit like a pear. Right? Just throwing out ideas.
There was a famous, hard to verify story about a creation of iPod, how he got an engineer sample of an iPod, he put it into water, bubbles floated, and he said, it has a lot of empty space. What about it? Or what?
There's another one. There's another one I just came up with on the way to work. I was reading a magazine the other day, turning pages. You know, I like to turn pages on a screen that aren't even there. Yeah, wrap your fucking heads around that, guys. See you in 8 years. Where you going, Michael? Big, little, get on it. Right? And all these people slave away to make his vision come true. And then they have the big nerd fest, right? Down there, Comic-Con and all.